I know what you're thinking. What happened on the Stitch It Don't Ditch It book tour after you visited the Big Fandango? Well, this episode is the next instalment where I go with Jeanna and Mary to Stitched Up, a Manchester-based not-for-profit with the goal of building an alternative fashion future by sharing sewing, mending and upcycling skills and facilitating clothing swaps and textile recycling. I spoke to Charlotte Vinsen, who freelances with Stitched Up, about what Stitched Up do, how it works and who it's for. I also catch up with Jeanna and Mary after they deliver their first interactive talk, and we debrief on what went down and what went well. Please do stick around but a few minutes and we'll get into it. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 18 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge, Me Made May, which is starting so soon. But like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate and ecological crises, and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to them. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. And I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Hi, lovely listener. How are you doing? How's your day going? Thanks for choosing to spend some of it with me as this episode accompanies you about your day. So I'd like to share a bit of a sustainability win of my own this week. So last week, I had a huge sort out of my fabric scraps. I was moving some of my sewing area around to give myself a little bit more space. So the fabric scraps were getting overwhelming and it was just not serving me very well. So to my credit, my fabric scraps were already organised by type, which definitely helped. But the volume was overwhelming. And I found fabric scraps in there that were left over from clothes that I made my kids as babies and toddlers, and they're now 12 and 9. And it just seemed a waste of time to try and come up with project ideas just to use them when I clearly haven't been inspired by those ones for ages. So I was pretty ruthless and very honest about what I imagine I'll actually use. And I bundled a whole load up and listed them on Olio. So Olio is an app that is a bit like FreeCycle, but I find Olio a bit easier to use. So I made a bundle of scraps suitable for quilting and patchwork, and another of heavier stuff like twill and cord and denim, which could probably be good for making purses or other kind of craft projects. They were very quickly claimed and 2 people came on Saturday to collect them. And one of them agreed to take a ton of jersey scraps as well. So I was able to palm off some of those as well. It feels so good to get some space and order back in my sewing area. And I feel really good knowing that these scraps, they're more likely to get used from someone that had to go to the effort of actually collecting them. I want to say a big thanks this week to Katie for signing up to support the podcast via Patreon. Thank you very much, Katie. For whatever reason, we've lost quite a few patrons recently, so I'm additionally grateful to help build the support back up a little bit. If you feel you could support the podcast each month to the tune of the price of a cup of coffee, or more or less, please head to patreon.com/checkyourthread. Thank you in advance. Right, so let's get cracking with the next instalment of the Stitch It Don't Ditch It tour. So when we went to Stitch It Don't Ditch It in Manchester back in February, as you'll hear, Mary and Jeanna hosted a new to them type of event, an interactive talk, as opposed to a more traditional mending workshop. You'll hear the thoughts behind that, how it worked out and what they learnt. And whilst we were there, I had a gorgeous conversation with Charlotte, who volunteers with them. They filled me with so much hope and joy because their passion for the work that they do and clothing sustainability in general is clearly so strong. I loved the opportunity to hear about cool, inspiring and hope-filled stuff going on in different parts of the country, and I think that you will too. So until next week, when I have a little solo episode for you, take care of yourself, take care of your people, take care of those who need and deserve it. Consider bundling up some fabric scraps and giving them away to crafters who would appreciate the materials. And enjoy. Right, so Jeanna, what day is it? It's day 3 of the tour, maybe? Day 2?
Day 2 of events.
Yes, day 2 of events.
3 days in Manchester.
Amazing. So where are we going now?
This evening we are going to Stitched Up Manchester, which is a not-for-profit in the Manchester area that does clothing upcycling, clothing exchanges, street stitching, lots of really amazing community events around sustainable clothing.
Amazing. So how did we get in touch with them?
They were recommended by, I believe, one of your lovely patrons.
The legends.
Yes, I don't remember who offhand. But yeah, we reached out to them and they were really excited to to work with us, to collaborate with us on a presentation this evening.
Yeah, so this time it's not a workshop like with the Big Fandango, is it? This time it's a slightly different thing.
Right, yeah. So this evening, Mary and I are going to do kind of an interactive presentation based on our approach to mending that we use in the book, and do lots and lots of sort of case studies and consultations to talk people through how to problem solve their repairs to come up with a long-lasting mend.
Amazing. So Mary, how are you feeling about the talk tonight?
I'm excited, yeah. It's really been good fun so far, and interacting with people and helping them to be able to tackle things that they might have thought that they couldn't is really very encouraging, and it's just great fun.
So have you done this talk before?
No. It's a completely new talk, so it might be a bit all over the place this time, but we will refine it as we go along. But what Jeanna and I find is that when we start talking to people, one of us will just start talking, and then when I run out of steam, Jeanna will jump in, and it's all about how the book, how people are to use the book. So obviously we know that inside out because we literally wrote the book on it.
Literally did. Jeanna, do we know anything about the kind of demographic we're expecting at the event tonight?
Honestly, I am not sure. I did read a little bit about what Stitched Up does, and it sounds like they're quite involved with kind of fashion students with the university program, but yeah, just really anyone who's interested in approaching their clothing in a more sustainable way. So it'll be a bit of a surprise.
Absolutely.
I think, though, we can expect that they will be excited about clothing repair, and we will all share that. And so we'll have that to kind of jump off from.
Yeah, and the fact that this is like an evening event, I feel like people, if they're going to be there, they wanted to be there, because they had to then go home, leave their house again.
Exactly. Yeah, anyone who's signed up is doing it out of their own free will and desire, and they are wanting to be there tonight.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, let's report back after the event.
Sounds perfect.
Okay, sorry. So who are you?
Hi, I'm Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte. Sorry, what was it you just said to me?
I just said that your blog was so influential to me growing up. It was probably one of the main reasons why I now do what I do here with Stitched Up, doing stuff with sustainable fashion.
What? Tell me everything, because I want to talk to you, and I want to
yeah?
talk to Sarah. Yeah, talk to me about
brilliant.
Stitched Up.
Yeah, well, we're a not-for-profit. We're a community benefit society. We do things that inspire action on sustainable fashion. So it's all things about mending, about sewing more sustainably, about reusing materials, educating people about textile waste, about recycling, about the life cycle of fabric, all that kind of good stuff.
So tell me about your background.
My background? Oh, I don't know.
So how did you get interested in this topic?
Yeah, well, I was sewing from a young age. When I started sewing, it was getting pieces from my wardrobe and adding things to it.
To make it more unique?
To make it more unique, exactly. I'm also have always been a stain-prone person, so I've always needed to cover things up, denim jeans that needed patches to hide my shame, all that kind of jazz. Yeah, and then I remember in the 20-teens time, when I was just about to become sort of a young adult, was when sewing blogs were so big, right? It was you, it was Portia, it was Stitching Odyssey, it was all that kind of jazz. I can't remember the rest of them, but I remember I just spent so much time on the internet reading all these things and being
writing this
I know, and I would dedicatedly go on and click through all of the blog links and be like, is there a new post? And I remember seeing people meet up, and I was like, one of these days I'm going to be around other people who sew, and I'm going to have this community. I grew up in Norwich, down southeast, and it's not that there weren't creative people around, there absolutely were, but people my age weren't necessarily super into sewing and stuff, so it was a lot of just doing it by myself, getting little books on mending. I remember we went to a museum, and there was a reproduction of one of those Make, Do and Mend books from the Second World War,
I have one of those.
And I was like, I've got to get this, and I remember just scouring over it, being oh, this is so interesting. I've just always really cared a lot about resources being wasted.
Is that something, was that from your familial kind of background or something you can...
I don't know. I think I've always been very climate anxious, to be honest. And so I've always been very concerned with, like, what happens to things once they've got worn out and, like, the impact of resources being unused. And, yeah, just the environmental impact was definitely, like, what brought me to wanting to, like, make things last longer. But also sentimentality, I think. Like, you get something that you love, and and as a child, your clothing is one of the big things that you use to express yourself, right? And it's so important to you to be able to show yourself to the world, even now. And when it breaks in some way, it's kind of devastating. But, you know, if you can mend things, you actually kind of hold the keys to that. Like, you're able to access a sort of new level of, like, keeping hold of the things you love, but then also adding yourself into the clothing. Exactly, making a greater connection with the clothing, and I think that's so important. I think that's something that we try to do all the time with Stitched Up. It's something I try to do personally with my clothing all the time.
So how did you get involved in Stitched Up?
So I started working for Stitched Up in 2022. They had a funded role for 6 months, I think it was, working as an outreach assistant. So
considering your interest, you must have seen this organisation and been like, this is made for me.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. The job came up and I was like, I have to apply right now.
Yeah.
So, exactly, like drop whatever you're cooking. Just apply now, 100%. Yeah, and I came, I remember I interviewed Sarah and Bryony, who's not here, interviewed me, and I was wearing a waistcoat that I'd made from pyjamas. And I was like so keen to let them know straight away, like, oh yeah, I made this from my pajamas. And they looked at me like, oh, okay, we're on the same wavelength. We get each other. That's all good. And yeah, I've been here ever since. I work as a freelancer now for Stitched Up, so go where the projects go and the funding opportunities are and like all that kind of jazz. But yeah, love it. Honestly, a dream job.
I'm guessing with all these kind of organisations, it's quite hands-on, and you don't necessarily have like a day where it looks the same. But roughly, what are your kind of things you might be doing of a week?
Sure. Well, I guess so. I could take you through this week. So
perfect.
So this week on Tuesday, Sarah and I lugged a load of suitcases over to Rochdale, and we were doing a workshop over there in a community cafe where we were teaching people to rework their clothes. So they'd brought clothes with them that they either had repairs needed or they just didn't love them anymore.
So how did those people, were those people paying for that workshop? Was it
no, that one was funded. So that one, it was with a charity called, I think, Future Learning or Future Directions. I'm so bad at my memory,
okay.
But it's it was working with people with learning and physical disabilities and their carers. So we've worked with them before to making like draft excluders to kind of increase like efficiency of someone's home while also like reusing supplies. And then this one, so it was people who were interested in doing this workshop, but it had been funded by this charity.
Amazing.
Kind of thing. So that was really nice. Ideally, we really love when we can do workshops that are free for the participants. It's super important to us to be able to make it accessible. Exactly, because so many things are prohibitively expensive and difficult to access, and by us going into those communities where there's already something set up, we can increase their skill sharing abilities while also like keeping the community that they've already fostered, kind of thing. So that was Tuesday, and then Wednesday I was teaching people how to sew in the Flaxworks in Bridge 5 Mill in Ancoats.
So is this where a lot of the events occur? Is this like your base?
Yeah, so this is our HQ. So this building is wonderful. It's a really good organisation. They're also a not-for-profit, and all of the businesses here are either working on something sustainable or they're working with the communities. Just like lots of really, really good businesses.
Cool stuff.
Really cool stuff.
And
it's amazing.
Building as well.
It's gorgeous. It's really, we're really lucky. We were in Stretford Mall, which was great. It worked really well for us.
Don't assume I know what those words mean.
That's absolutely fine. So it's a place in South Manchester, and it was a mall that's, dying. So we got space there to be able to do workshops and stuff, which was wonderful. But being here is also such an inspirational space, and like we're meeting great people.
Getting all these other vibes.
There are other things going on, and we can kind of communicate and interact and collaborate with stuff. We did a workshop. There are like 3 floors floors here, and there's a big room on the top floor, and we had Greater Manchester Moving we're doing a whole conference day on various different things, I don't know what, but we came at the end to do like a redo your denim workshop, which is all about like hand sewing techniques you can do for denim, like Sashiko inspired stuff, all that kind of jazz. And that's just really nice because that kind of came about because we're in the space and we were able to just like talk to each other and stuff, so that was great.
So I jumped in and you were telling me about your Wednesday.
Yes, so my Wednesday I was teaching people to sew here in the evenings. So we do regular program of workshops with people. So we have Learn to Sew, we do garment making, which is the next one up. We also have like Learn to Sew in a Day, 0 to Hero, where it's sort of all condensed into one little Sunday, where they like learn how to use the sewing machine, and then by the end of the day they're making their own pyjama bottoms, which they do not believe they can do at the beginning, but at the end they've got it, which is great.
I think I saw that on your Instagram and it looked adorable.
Yes, it's great. It's a great workshop. So, so I was doing that, teaching people how to use a sewing machine on Wednesday. And then today is an event like this, where we've got people coming in to discuss and talk through things,
so
which
then you're
is wonderful.
facilitating more than teaching.
Yeah, exactly. And this is great because I'm just absorbing
that's
information and conversations, and it's really lovely.
So do you get other kind of external people coming
We'd
in?
love more of that, I think. We don't do this sort of thing too often, to be honest, but I think it would be great to do more. We've got the space, and it fosters such great like conversations and stuff, and it's really good to get other people in who might not necessarily know about us, but we might know about them, and then we're just all, I don't know, skill sharing and learning together. It's just really nice. I love it. And then the rest of the week is probably for me working from home, working on our newsletter, working on our social media, that sort of jazz.
So it's very much lots of people like just pitching in and doing what needs to be done.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got sort of technical job roles, but we all just do
website.
a bit of everything.
Yeah. What I know it's like, yeah.
That's the nature of a small business, I suppose.
So how many like paid employees are there in the business or in the
there's
enterprise?
3 people who are employed, so that's Bryony, Wynne and Sarah, and then there are a couple of freelancers. So there's me, there's Katie who does the 0 to Hero. We've also got people like Joe who works on our Stratford Community Dye Garden. A couple of years ago we got funding to do a dye garden, and that's still going strong.
Where is that?
So it's in Stratford, which is South Manchester, in a park basically. It's really nice. They've got like a willow woven like fence and everything around it now, and it's just gorgeous.
I'm going to come back in the summer and
you should come back. I was going to say it looks a bit bare at the moment, but once everything starts coming up, it's really exciting. Like all the marigolds and all the whatever plants. It's really and Joe's super knowledgeable about like dyes and plants and all that kind of information. And with that, we actually get some really good facilitators to come in and do workshops. Like we did one about nettle fibre and making one about cyanotypes, like getting like photography from like natural materials like spinach and stuff. It was amazing. It's incredible. So it's really wonderful to know.
That, I'm coming back in the summer.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's great.
So what was your hopes and dreams in terms of Stitched Up? Like, what would you like
oh my
that
God.
you don't have currently?
What would you like we don't have currently? I would love for us to all be able to do this full time, to be honest. Funding is really hard to come by, as anyone who's operating under that kind of business model will attest to. And I think just as being able to be a resource for anyone in Manchester for textile reuse. So a couple of our ongoing projects this year and ahead are Shred Up, which is our textile reuse community-built initiative, which is very much in its infancy, but it's very exciting to kind of speak with businesses about their textile waste and work out ways that we can actually practically tackle that and recycle it into something that's viable as a circular product. And then also our Rethread Hubs, which is working with libraries and creating spaces where the community can come and learn how to mend their clothes, but it's something that can last beyond us as well. Like we want to set up things that continue in that community once we've set it up.
Amazing. So, yeah. I'm going to come and see you in the summer and see what's going on.
Amazing.
Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you so much, Zoe.
Alrighty, so we've just come back from Stitched Up in Manchester. So this was an interactive talk. How did it go?
It was very good. We enjoyed it. Yeah, quite a good turnout. Very busy.
Yeah, it was really nice. This was the first time that Mary and I have done this interactive presentation, so it was a bit of an experiment for us, but I think it went well.
So what did you cover?
Basically, what's in the book and how to use it, sort of the kind of process of if you've got a garment that needs a repair, how to think through all the questions that you need to consider before tackling your repair to make sure that at the end of it you get something which is long-lasting.
Right, so spot test. Gina, what are the questions?
Oh boy. All right. So first question is, whose garment is this?
I love that question.
Yes. And what do they wear it for? What sort of activities do they wear it for? Next question is, what would that person like their garment to look like after it's been repaired?
Yeah, so why do you ask whose it is and what they wear it for?
Because we want this garment, if you're going to be spending the time and effort to repair it, we hope that it's going to be worn. So that's why it's really important to consider what that wearer wants it to look like, and just to make sure that they will indeed want to continue wearing it once you spend your time and energy to fix it.
I love that because that's this kind of sustainability of your energy as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So, once you talk through those 3 questions, then we think about the actual properties of the garment. What's the garment made out of? How is it made? Is it woven or knit fabric? And then that helps you to select the kind of materials that you're going to use to repair your garment, as well as the type of technique that's going to be suitable for that fabric and that garment.
Awesome. You covered loads, actually, in all of that, because you kind of broke that down even further, didn't you? So after your talk, well, kind of towards the end, you had some people bring actual garments, didn't you? Mary, what were the garments that people brought, and how were you able to triage it with them?
Right. There was quite a range of different things, but actually I think what had happened was people had brought garments that they were kind of like, oh God, how am I going to do this? So quite a few of them had quite a bit of wear.
They were more challenging, weren't they?
They were, yeah. A couple of them were at the stage of, it's going to require quite a bit of effort to get this back into a state that it's wearable. But it's always fun and challenging when you've got something that's a bit out of the norm. Or
Tell me about the garment that made you groan.
It probably was the mustard pleather, or whatever you want to call it, plastic jacket.
What was the damage?
It was damaged on the collar, so the bit that would be sort of next to your neck, all of the plastic coating from the woven fabric was peeling off. So we had suggested a number of different possibilities, like you could do a good old-fashioned turn the collar kind of repair, which was a thing that used to happen all the time with working men's shirts. Or you could cut out a different kind of fabric and use that to cover the collar. And then we were on to the next garment, or possibly even the next one after that, when it occurred to me that actually you could probably also use spinnaker tape and stick on something.
I loved the idea that you had of like adding faux fur or Sherpa or something to make into a furry collar.
Yes, or a scarf, and kind of sew some of the scarf to the actual collar.
Yeah, I loved it. There was a lot of great ideas in there. What else? Because there was a cuff one that was quite challenging as well, wasn't there, Gina?
Yeah, there were actually 2 people who brought like hoodie sort of garments that had folded over ribbed cuffs where the edge of the cuffs were starting to fray, and one of them belonged to the attendee's son, and the other one belonged to the attendee's partner, and both of those garment owners really wanted a less visible repair. They wanted to kind of maintain these clearly very favorite garments.
Yeah, that's what I really noticed, is that these garments are clearly loved and they don't want them gone. And even though neither of them were probably particularly expensive, it was clearly something that had a connection to, which I thought was really heartening.
Yeah, they'd obviously been worn a lot to get to that state where they were showing that much wear, and it was really nice that both the garment owner was willing to have their garment repaired and be changed to a degree that would make it be wearable again, but then also that the mender of that garment was willing to put in the time and energy to keep that garment going.
Yeah. So what was a couple of the suggestions for dealing with the worn cuffs?
So with the worn cuffs, one option is to replace the cuffs, so to unpick them and put a new sort of ribbing onto them. But I think that it seemed like the consensus for both of these particular garments was that they were going to just try to kind of cut right along the edge where that ribbed cuff is folded over, and then tuck that in, tuck the two edges in, and stitch to past the point where the cuffs were tattered, and then just kind of re-stitch them.
Yeah.
So that it shortens the cuffs just a tiny bit, but it does maintain the look of the original garment.
Yeah.
And that repair is in the book, so that's quite handy. It's always nice when the solution is in the book.
Absolutely. So, yeah. And my favourite of the garments that was brought by the attendee that had that T-shirt that already had some visible mends and was clearly a beloved garment, and that they'd already committed to keeping its life for longer. So can you tell us about that garment, Mary?
It was a T-shirt which had quite a lot of wear. Again, it was round the neck. It's interesting that quite a lot of the repairs were round the neck or the cuffs. And it was a T-shirt where the neck hole was actually potentially a wee bit tight already. So again, there was the option, similar to how you would do the cuffs, where you would cut along the edge and turn it in. But because it
didn't have a neck binding, did it? It was it had almost like a facing.
It was like a facing.
There was like a seam binding at the back, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was like a facing. So one of the suggestions was that she just cut that whole thing off and put, obviously before you cut it off, create a pattern piece for making a separate facing. But again, one of the other things that was suggested was before you go cutting things, there are other things that you could do, because once you've cut, that's it. So I think possibly she was going to try blanket stitch around the edge as a first step.
Visible mending was clearly this attendee style, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that would be a sort of stabilising, until it gets worse kind of situation. But I think that clearly she was willing to put the effort in. Yeah. When it got that little bit further down the road and it needed some more. So, and you could see that she was thinking about different solutions and different aesthetics as well as to how it would then look. But I think the thing that was really interesting for me was most of the garments were something that the person who regularly wore it found really comfortable and almost comforting as well. And I think that was...
Yeah, there was definitely a connection. That attendee had a real connection with that garment.
Yeah. So...
and they were wearing a very cool patched shirt as well, amazing. Did you see?
Yes, and that was actually really interesting, because when we were talking to her about what different options there were, I was thinking to myself, well, I could suggest something that's really quite technical and quite a lot of work, because obviously she's capable of doing it because she's done this lovely collar repair already. So that was quite a useful kind of hint as to what her level of competence already was.
So this was your first interactive talk. There will be more. What will you take away and apply to your next one?
I think that one thing that we did today that I think worked really well is kind of towards the beginning, we asked who had brought a garment that they wanted a consultation on. And that was something that we were hoping, being as this is presented as an interactive talk, it's nice if, although we're not doing any actual garment repair in these events, our thought in offering this option was that potentially we could reach a larger audience. We can have more than... if Mary and I aren't just trying to actually hands-on teach a repair for everyone, we can open that up to a larger audience. So,
because if all those people who were there were sat on the table with their stuff surrounding them, there probably wouldn't have been enough space, would there?
Or time to deal with everybody's,
So, there's pros and cons to both types of events, but I do think that this is nice because we can invite a larger audience, and then everyone gets to kind of hear and benefit from hearing the process, the problem-solving process as we talk through. And it was one thing that I thought was really cool today. I'm derailing from your original question, so I'll get back to it. But one thing that I really appreciated is that as Mary and I were up there sort of riffing off of each other, well, you could do this, you could do this, you can ask this. People from the audience were chiming in and giving suggestions as well. And we would sort of end up with kind of a menu of options from sort of like, here's the least labor intensive, the least extreme version of this repair, all the way up to like cut it off and reconstruct it. And so, it was a really, really nice opportunity to model that there are a lot of right ways to do repairs while kind of keeping within the parameters of making sure that your repair functions the way that it should. So what did I like about it? What do I think went well? It seemed like it went well that we were able to kind of engage the audience and involve people and share the problem-solving process.
Any last takeaways, Mary?
I think one of the things that I had realised is that once we stopped talking about a garment, I'm still thinking about it. And the ideas are still springing out there. And I think the other thing that hopefully people realise is that if they get together to mend, it's a joy because you can share the time together and the coffee and cake and whatever, and you get through your mending pile while you're chatting, and it's all very lovely. But you can also get ideas about how, I would do it this way, I would do it that way, and it gives you more opportunities to make decisions that take you down a route that you might not have expected. And that it's a really good thing to think about getting together, doing your mending together.
Yes, the power of the hive mind. Awesome. Well, thank you and well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, and thank you for driving us as well.
All 10 minutes. Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!